Hello, everyone. Welcome to Best Practices for Service Virtualization. I'm Pamela Deason, Head of DevOps Product Marketing here at Broadcom. I have here with me Carl Miller, who is the Global Client Services Consultant and Expert for Service Virtualization.
Hey, Pam. Happy to be here.
So, Carl, what are the basic best practices for service virtualization?
Well, great, Pam. There are three primary best practices. First is you should have a wiki, SharePoint, something that you can share knowledge. That should be a place where you document your processes, have how-to documents. How-to videos are great. So have videos of how things work. Also, you want to put in there links to our Broadcom SV documentation and resources such as our videos that are either in the community or on our YouTube playlist. Next, the second part is you need to have a good naming convention. Use a standard naming convention that meets your organization's needs. Use abbreviations to keep the names from getting too long. So like for registries and VSEs, have a name that identifies it and is descriptive so the infrastructure team knows who it belongs to and who's working with it. Registries, you could have something like DEV-REG01, which would be a registry used by a development team. QA, a registry used by the QA team exclusively would be QA-Reg02. Like I said, abbreviates, but have them descriptive. For virtual service environments, you might want to include the team name in it, like dev-tm A01 -VSE01. So that would be for the dev team 01. It might have one or two registries, but that would be the first one. So something like that. Performance VSEs, you may want to include perf in the name. So that's really the naming conventions. Get that right. It's going to help you in the end. For virtual services, consider using the application name that the service is replacing and the version. Don't forget the version. The virtual service, name of the virtual service, and the version of the virtual service. Use Java camel case naming conventions. All you developers know what I'm talking about. So like you might have, for an account lookup service, you might have ACCT-LK for lookup or LU for lookup _ V2.222. And then the name of then an abbreviation team 02. And the version of the virtual service, which might be different than the version of the application. This allows you to keep track of them, version them, store them in source control management. You could also, I've seen teams that have the project number or project name or number, an abbreviation for that as part of the virtual service name. So have those virtual services. Now, the last one is automate whatever you can without making it too complex. We've got dev test APIs for creation, deployment, undeployment, updating, starting, stopping. Use those APIs to automate it and then take those automation scripts, use them in your CI/CD engines. So those are the three really basic best practices. One, have a wiki SharePoint to share knowledge. Two, have good naming conventions for everything. And third is automate whatever you can when you can.
Thanks for that, Carl. Now, what about service virtualization architectural best practices? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Pam, those are good because getting those right makes your job a lot easier. The first one I always tell teams is if you have 3 or more registries, separate out your enterprise dashboard from those registries. The enterprise dashboard, identity and access management, and the virtual service catalog can go on one server instance and be shared for all 3 of those registries. or more registries. You can have lots of registries going to one appropriately sized enterprise dashboard. The ED separate from the registries allows you to do updates and patching a lot easier because the registries don't need to be in constant communication with the enterprise dashboard. They can do that. They can be separated for a short period of time, and it does not affect anything. But that allows you to patch that system and bring it back up, and then patch the registries one at a time. Same for updating. Second is identity and access management. Use LDAP integration or Active Directory if you're using Microsoft's Active Directory. That's going to make it easy for you to identify who's using the services, who created them, what they, and what the usage is. Next, if you have a registry that's up in a cloud or in a different data center or network segment, put an IAM with it. You can have multiple identity access management with one per registry. So you can have those. And I recommend that, especially if you have the registries separated from one another, say by network segments, or as I mentioned, you can have an on-prem enterprise dashboard and have registries up in a cloud, such as Azure, AWS, Google. Next one. Registry can have multiple VSE, coordinator, and simulators. I'll see sometimes customers think that it's a one-to-one relationship. No, it's not. I have other customers that have scaled out to 50 plus virtual service environments going to a single registry. So those virtual service environments can be on smaller instances for functional VSEs, and be connected into the same registry. Makes your maintenance a lot easier that you don't have multiple registries. You can mix container-based and virtual machine systems. You can have a virtual machine registry and container-based virtual services environments. That makes it easier to scale up, scale out. So remember that. VSE coordinators and simulators, names associated with teams, systems, and functions. That goes back to that naming convention I mentioned. All of you developers and testers, when you get lots of systems, you know what I mean. You want good naming conventions. And next, logging. Make sure that you have your logging set to info or warn for your info level for debugging, developing virtual services and tests, but warn or error level or even none for performance virtual service environments. That makes it easier. That gives you a performance edge, especially for performance VSEs. You'll see our recommendations on those. You want to definitely have those as at maximum of warn. You can turn it off also. So those are my architecture best practices. Those will get you started and get you going in a great direction.
And I want to thank you, Carl, for everything that you shared today. I also want to remind everyone, this is one video in a series of videos around best practices for our DevOps products. From all of us here at Broadcom, we thank you for joining and hope you find this and our other videos helpful. Bye for now.